April 18th, 1906. An earthquake and fire destroy much of San Francisco, leading citizens to wonder whatever happened to predictability. All right, I really want to bring the heat to the intro. Welcome to the Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And hey, joining us from isolation, like all of us, Matt Kobos, everyone.
What's up? Glad to see faces.
Yeah, good to see everyone. Good to not be touching everyone like always.
Matt's name on this Zoom call, spoiler, we're on a Zoom call, is not his real name, but Kellen Shadow, which sounds like his D&D character.
It was supposed to be a secret. I forgot to change it.
Oh, Colleen Shadow. There's two E's. It's Colleen Shadow.
Yeah.
It's not even a real normal name.
Well, I mean,
it's my girlfriend, so
I'm not saying it's just an unusual name. I don't know a lot of Colleens.
it is.
It does sound very high fantasy to me. It sounds like Game of Thrones, like when they take Kellen or Kelly and they have to change it just a little bit. Like that's the Game of Thrones version.
Yeah, when George R. R. Martin just like, he usually does just throw like an extra vowel in there. He's just like, fuck it.
Yeah, he changes one vowel. It's like Joffrey. We did it. Job done.
George 800 pages of buffets to write about.
Okay, yeah, exactly. He's got to do. I mean, if he's going to finish the book, take some shortcuts on the names. That's fine. Eddard, great. You changed one consonant. I'm fine with it. Just finish the goddamn book.
Why is everyone named Steve in The Winds of Winter?
It's Step. He just replaced the V with a P, and it's unpronounceable now.
Steve?
Yeah.
Well, listeners, if you're new to the show, what we do each episode is we shit on George R. R. Martin, who's working hard.
Yeah. Well, when he finishes the book, we'll give him a break. Give us the Winds of Winters, and you'll get George R. R. Martin is off the list for 1 week at that point.
There's still a whole other book after that, too. So
I know. So he gets a little time. He has 1 year to write the last one, and then he's back on the shit list.
Well, yeah, doesn't the RR stand for rest and relaxation?
Yeah, George Rest and Relaxation Martin. Oh, look, fucking R.L. Stine put out 4 Goosebumps a year. Like, at this point, you're over. You're under the bar.
He put out way more than 4 a year, but
really? I thought it was like a
he
spring,
put out
summer,
one,
fall.
No, every month he put out a Goosebumps book.
Those were monthly?
Those were monthly.
Damn. I thought they were quarterly.
No, every month he put out a Goosebump book.
Okay, shit. Maybe I'm thinking of Fear Street.
Yeah, I think he did those. Those might have been quarterly, but I think they might have been monthly too. That man was pumping shit out. Granted, those books were like 60 pages and had big font. And clearly he didn't, if you read them as an adult, it's like, oh, he didn't think about this at all. But still.
I mean, he also did like 4 Lawn Gnomes books. So at a certain point, yes, he was
incorrect. He did 1 Lawn Gnomes book. It's number 34, Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. I still kind of remember all of the Goosebumps and their numbers from when I was a kid. I really liked Goosebumps.
That's impressive.
I thought there were more Lawn Gnome ones. What am I thinking of the ventriloquist?
There are, at least 4 of those. There's some later series where they bring back characters. In the original series, I think there's 3.
Like the canonical red and blue version, Goosebumps.
Yeah. Well, they were different colors every month, but yes.
What we actually do on the show is each episode we take a topic from history, like R.L. Stine's Goosebumps series, and one person presents the true story of that person, place, or thing, and another person comes up with a batshit, bonkers, off-the-wall, crazy pants alternate history, and the winner gets to become the truth going forward of this little crazy thing called life. Brian,
what did we talk about last time?
I was already saying it.
I just thought I'd give you a lead in,
I like the prompt.
Yeah.
Trying
to make
time
this
we
more
talked about
organic.
Sputnik with Rachel Weeks, and the alternate history has won, which was basically, not even basically, it was just the Iron Giant at a certain point.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I still cry thinking about it. But this week, we're continuing our discussion of the space race
Okay.
by talking about Yuri Gagarin. And Zach, you're doing the true story, right?
That's true. I am doing the true story.
Right. You say it like a serial killer who's ensnared me in his trap.
Yeah.
And then Matt, you were doing the alternate. Sorry.
What I haven't told you is this is a magic story, and whoever I tell it to will die 3 days later. So,
so it's the Ring. It's basically
yeah, it's
a
an
ring
oral
riff.
version of the Ring. Yeah,
Yeah, the Ring riffs that chased Frodo throughout.
it's what the Ring was like in the 1800s before they had VHSs.
I think that was just life in the 1800s.
Yeah, something would like most of the time you were expected to die in 3 days because they didn't have medicine.
But Zach, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Okay. Yuri Gagarin was born on March 9th, 1934, in Klushino, which is near... This is going to be a Russian one, guys. So we got some Russian words coming at you that are not going to be pronounced correctly. Gzhaztak?
Nope, I don't know. I don't know, and I know it's not that.
It's Gzhastak.
Fuck off. Russia, fuck off.
Yeah.
That town, thankfully, rightfully, changed its name to Gagarin after Yuri Gagarin's death because the first name was shit and everyone realized it.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say what that town was rightfully destroyed.
I almost did, but technically that's not accurate, and I'm supposed to be telling you all the truth.
True.
His parents worked in a collective farm as a carpenter for his father and a dairy farmer for his mother. He was the third of 4 children. Older brother, older sister, younger brother, I believe. His childhood was not all the idyllic version of a Russian collective Soviet farm in the 30s. Like, I'm sure that makes you think his childhood was light. But it was not all, shared cattle and rationed wheat. It was during World War II. His town was occupied by who could it be but the Nazis?
Coming at you.
Yeah, and a German officer was like, "Your house is nice. It's mine now." So he and his family lived in a 10-foot by 10-foot mud hut behind the house for 21 months, while a Nazi officer lived in their home. Then his 2 older siblings were sent to Poland in 1943 to perform slave labor and came back after the war ended. Fortunately, they did not die, so that's a small mercy.
Sorry, sent by which side? Just out of curiosity.
By the Nazis to Poland. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Not by the family.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I mean...
So, Brian, in World War II, Poland was occupied by the Nazis, in case you missed that little bit of information.
Oh, 1943, you said.
Yeah. They were sent in 1943. Did I say 40? They were sent from 43 to 45.
I just misheard.
Yeah. From 43 to 45, they were sent to do slave labor in Poland.
But also, to be fair, Stalin.
Yeah, Stalin would totally do that too, to be fair, yes. Though Stalin did not, as far as I could tell, send any member of this man's family to do slave labor, so at least they had that going.
Big up Stalin.
Yeah, that's the slogan of this show, of course. Big up Stalin.
That is not our slogan.
Yeah. Every episode, we try to make sure we give Stalin some ups for... Most episodes, no one in the story was personally victimized by Stalin. Like, it's pretty rare.
Yeah, no, we still have 20 million episodes to get to.
Yeah, no. So, like last week, we talked about Sputnik. Probably somebody in that was victimized by Stalin.
Yeah.
But the episode before, the Hidden Figures lady, I don't think Stalin ever did anything to her. So big up, Stalin.
You sound like fucking Stalin's press secretary on CNN.
Yeah. So, regardless of Stalin's alleged guilt.
Okay, fine. We're going to toss that alleged around.
Gagarin went on to apprentice as a foundryman in 1950, and at the same time enrolled in 7th grade evening classes to finally get his 7th grade education. He passed 7th grade and his vocational school a year later when he was age 17. I know 17 is an old age to pass 7th grade, but again, I want to remind you, this man lived in a mud hut because of Nazis, which is a pretty good excuse. He was selected for the Saratov Industrial Technical School and studied tractors there, while also learning to fly biplanes. And to supplement his income, he worked on the docks. One thing about Gagarin is he seems like a real go-getter. He's always doing like 3 or 4 different things at the same time, like working nonstop. I think this guy's very, very diligent.
Mm-hmm. He also majored in tractors.
Yeah, he studied tractors. That's what it said. I didn't look any further.
I know. It's just as a concept.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot to learn about tractors. The things I don't know about tractors could go on for days, I'm sure.
Well, and also he was in 7th grade. Do you know how many 7th grade boys want to major in tractors?
Oh, fuck
quite a few. That's true. Yeah. So
well, by 7th grade, I mean, I think by 7th grade they've mostly moved on to butts.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So, yeah, he also learned to draw that Stussy S at this time.
So sick.
Yeah, pretty awesome. He was talking about getting it put on his board, but he never did.
Just working the tech deck constantly.
So he goes on to the first Tchaikovsky Flight Air Force Pilot School. First Tchaikovsky Flight Air Force Pilot School, or the FCHAFPS. FCHAMPS, as it's known. And where he learns to fly MiGs. He struggled initially with landing the MiGs, which are larger planes than he was used to. And he was almost dismissed from the school, but then his instructor gave him a cushion to sit on so that he could actually see a little better when landing the MiGs, and he was able to do it. So, yeah, short little Gagarin, finally got a little cushion under his butt and could land a MiG.
Sometimes that's what you need as a person who is 5'6".
He wishes. The weakness of his short height will not be the last time his height is a factor in his life. He was 5'2".
Yeah, I feel you. I was 5'2" once too, In
7th grade, yeah. So he begins solo flying in 1957. He gets into the Soviet Air Force. He becomes a lieutenant and serves near the Norwegian border for a couple of years. And he has an interest in space, so he applies for the Soviet space program and is endorsed by his superior, Lieutenant Colonel Babushkin, which is just a fun name to say. He has no further role in the story.
You gotta love that Babushkin.
Yeah. He interviews for the space program in November of 1959, and is approved for the Vostok program selection. Now, Vostok was the program for the first ever manned flight into space. That was what it was called. The word Vostok is going to come up a lot, so just so you know, that's what it is. which was overseen by Major General Konstantin Borodin. It had certain limitations. It limited candidates to between ages 25 and 30. And because the capsule was small, all candidates had to be under 5'7". So what was once his greatest weakness has become his greatest asset. Short boys unite. I am not a short boy, but go short boys.
Thank you,
You
Zach.
can go to space too.
SBs, I'll see you at the conference.
Yeah.
My short kings.
Yes, short kings. That's the phrase I was looking for that's become popular recently on the internet.
For some reason.
You can't get a date on Tinder, but you can be short kings. So 20 people trained for the program starting in March of 1960. And it was pretty extreme training. It was like Olympic level physical training every single day. And they had to do like over 50 parachute drops over both land and water to train, I mean, they're going to need to be able to use a parachute if they want to not die in this particular program. So that was important.
This is also, I think, the first time anyone's sending a living thing up in a rocket with the intention of getting them back.
Probably true, yeah. They had the novel idea of not killing the thing they sent to space. And Stalin was resistant at first.
Because it wasn't his style, yeah.
Yeah. But after he heard that the Americans wouldn't like it, he gave it the old thumbs up. Actually, by 1960, Stalin was dead anyway, so who gives a shit? So he asked, let me find out where it was. Right. So all of the people in the program, the 20 people, were given an anonymous survey to see which pilot besides themselves should be nominated for this position on Vostok. And all but 3 said Gagarin was the guy that should go. So he was pretty well liked by his his classmates, I guess you might call them. He was extremely hardworking and I think a generally pretty nice guy. So he had that going for him. He had to be a short king. He was chosen to be one of the Vanguard 6, which is the top 6 attendants. Sorry, I cut you off there, Brian.
No, I just want to say, I know I introduced that phrase into the podcast. I don't care for it.
Yeah, well, we're titling
on record.
We are titling this episode Yuri Gagarin, short king. That's going to happen. So at the very least, it better be in the episode description. Sure. I'm making the call right now. Yuri, quote, short king Gagarin.
I'll make a note to put it in there.
So he qualified for the top 6, and his training continued. He did not have a higher degree of education, which they wanted for this particular person. So he was enrolled in the Kharkovsky Air Force Engineering Academy as part of his training.
That's a safe bet with any of these.
Yeah. Also, part of that's on the spelling and part of that's on my handwriting on this one. I'm going to be honest. I think it's Rukovsky, actually. I think that's an R. Anyway, he enrolled September of 1960. He didn't get his diploma until 1968, which would be after the big thing that happened to him. But he was a busy guy, so what are you going to do? He was tested for, as part of the 6, he was tested for his endurance. He was tested for oxygen starvation and put in a centrifugal chamber for G-force endurance. He was also sent into an isolation chamber for 10 full days for a psychological evaluation to see how he could handle isolation. His personality was very highly praised by the doctors performing these tests. They said he was driven, that he was, smart, that he was good with math and numbers, all of these things. They also said, quote, he appears to understand life better than his friends, which is a weird...
That's a very Russian thing to say.
Yeah, so... If Tommy Wiseau said, "Do you understand life?" This guy would say yes.
Yeah, we're probably like piecing together more of his backstory too.
After the final testing phase, which was a 2-day test to see if they understood the procedure for running the capsule and re-entry and all that, he was selected as the single most ready person for this project and was given the slot. And on April 12th of 1961, he was sent up into space on Vostok, saying as he left, let's go, goodbye, we will meet soon, dear friends. And let's go, in its informal version, became a popular Russian space age expression to sort of, like bolster up national pride and stuff like that. He orbits for 108 minutes, so the 10 days in the chamber wasn't really necessary, was it?
That was just a fun Soviet thing.
Yeah, that was just for fun.
Just for funzos.
And then...
just for fun skis, I think, in Russia.
He becomes the first person in space, first person to orbit the Earth, and returns to Earth in Kazakhstan. Yeah. So... and he said as he re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, he sang the song, "The Motherland Hears, the Motherland Knows." So that's just a fun Russian thing that he did.
Don't know what that song sounds like, but it sounds metal.
It's not. I listened to a little bit of it, and it seems very kind of sweet and calm. So
no, yeah.
He's promoted to major. He parachuted out at 7,000 feet, I should note, and landed in Kazakhstan. And he immediately becomes internationally famous. There are huge demonstrations all over Russia that are second only to the demonstrations that occurred after World War II was won in size, at least at that point in history. Mm-hmm. And he starts touring kind of the world pretty quickly after that, not just Russia. He goes to London a few weeks later. He goes to Cuba. He goes to Iceland. He goes to all sorts of different countries and sort of tours. He always has an open car. Even when it was raining, he refused to use an umbrella so people could see him. And he kind of goes all over the world, except for the U.S., where JFK banned him from entry upon him becoming famous. So no Gagarin in the U.S. He eventually goes to work at Star City, a cosmonaut facility in Russia.
Okay. Because it also sounds like a roller rink.
Yeah, or where superheroes meet in one of the shittier arcs of Marvel Comics. He's working on a team to design reusable spacecraft. And in 1962, he's elected a deputy for the USSR. He's eventually reelected later. So there are concerns from the higher-ups about him flying again. They don't want him to be killed in an accident because he's such an important figure for Russia at this time. There's also questions about him having potential drinking issues, though it seems to be mostly based on him going to so many events where he's socially inclined to drink. But it doesn't really come up much after this. It doesn't seem like he was a full-blown alcoholic at the very least, even if he maybe drank a little more than he should.
Right.
So he does manage to become a backup, cosmonaut for a few future launches, though he never actually has to step up and fulfill that role. One of those is the Soyuz 1, SOYUS 1, which was apparently a rushed space exploration.
Good.
Due to political pressure to get it up in a certain time frame. It's the space race. Part of it's the race. And as a result, that capsule crashes, and his friend Vladimir, Komarov, who Gagarin was good friends with, is killed in the crash. After that, he's fully barred from ever doing a space flight ever again, and he's actually barred also from solo flight at all. He can't fly his own planes. He didn't like this, but the Russian government was like, "Yeah, you're too important to risk."
I mean, even propaganda-wise, if they're like, "Oh, the first person in space then died in a later accident," the Soviets probably couldn't have that.
Yeah, this was the time when he started working on his degree. He'd actually finished his degree I mentioned earlier.
I wonder if he could claim that as like credit or something,
Yeah.
like an internship. We got like 3 credit hours from that at least.
Before we get to the end of this story, I'm going to rewind slightly and get his personal life out of the way.
Mhm.
Back in 1957, before he went to space, he married Valentin Goryacheva. And he married her the same day he graduated flight school in 1957. They had 2 daughters who are still alive today and seem like one's an economics professor and another one does something else that's fairly important. But they're alive today. They're living in Russia.
Mhm.
There's a false attribution that he said in space, I do not see God up here. In fact, he was genuinely religious. Khrushchev said something about that because they were pushing like an anti-religion, they were an anti-religion government.
Yeah.
In 1961, here's a little fun one. On his tours at a certain hotel, he was caught cheating with a nurse who had been helping him by his wife. And in order to escape being found out, he jumped off a 2nd-story balcony, which left a scar above his left eyebrow for the rest of his life. So there you go.
What you get? I get.
This brings us to March 27th, 1968. This is about less than 40. He got his degree on February 17th, 1968. So it's, only a little more than a month after. Gagarin and flight instructor Vladimir Sirogin go up together in a MiG, and it crashes and kills them both.
Mm.
There's a lot of conspiracies about what happened. The KGB takes over the investigation from the Air Force and basically shut them out. The report is classified until the year 2003, in which they determined what happened was probably the tower gave Gagarin and his co-pilot, the flight instructor, slightly out of date weather information, and the weather had gotten gotten worse very quickly. So they weren't able to get an accurate read on their altitude because they weren't synced up correctly, basically. It's also possible that the ground crew may have stalked the aircraft somewhat incorrectly. Less clear on that. But something happened. There's a couple options. Either they hit some birds or had to turn very quickly to avoid another aircraft because they had a wrong altitude. There's somebody who claims that he thinks that they passed very close to him when they were up there, which caused them to go into a spin. Because they had the wrong altitude, they didn't have the right techniques to pull themselves out of the spin, and they crashed and died. So there's obviously a lot of stuff in this guy's memory. Tons of coins, statues, medals, memorials. There's a holiday, April 12th, the day he went into space, that was originally just a Russian holiday that culminated in something called Yuri's Night. But
nice.
In 2011...
That sounds tight.
In 2011, the UN actually said April 12th is Human Spaceflight Day. So International Human Spaceflight Day. So that's the day he went into space. So now it's kind of technically a national holiday. Just passed, so we just missed it.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Apollo 11, Armstrong and Aldrin actually left a satchel on the moon that contained medals commemorating him and his buddy Komarov, who died in that capsule crash I mentioned earlier. So that's on the moon now. Good for him.
Along with so much other stuff we brought up there, it's just there.
Yeah, it's just there. Once you're on the moon, you stay on the moon. That's the moon's tourist catchphrase.
Yeah, that's where Vegas got the idea.
Yeah. So the Space Foundation in 2010 did a poll and found he was the 6th most popular space hero, tied with Captain Kirk from Star Trek.
What?
Okay.
So I guess fictional space heroes also are on the poll.
Was Kirk the highest ranking fictional space hero?
No, he
Or
was
there
tied.
someone above?
No, he was tied with Gagarin for 6th.
No, fictional one.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look at the poll. I should have.
Okay.
I assume dude, he's definitely not the highest rated fictional one because
No, because Kirk is
name
terrible.
5 space heroes besides real life space heroes. Name them right now.
Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Picard,
Riker?
Cisco, Janeway.
Yeah, so he's not. There's got to be other fictional ones above him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, number 1 is probably Buzz Lightyear.
yeah, I'm sure like Luke Skywalker's on that shit.
Yeah.
So the family has mostly forbid his portrayal in fiction of any kind, though there was a 2013 docuseries in Russia about him. And they've also vetoed the use of his likeness in a musical. So that didn't come out. But
I would love to see like Lin-Manuel Miranda tackle the Yuri Gagarin musical.
but that is basically it. You know, that's the true story of Yuri Gagarin, the first man to orbit the Earth, the first man in space.
Zach, thank you. I found the list. Captain Kirk is the highest ranking fictional character. So that's nice. Lovell.
Who's the top 5?
Yeah. Top 5, Neil Armstrong, number 1. Number 2, Gene Kranz, who was like mission control during Apollo 13. John Young, who's Gemini Apollo Space Shuttle. Never heard of him. So, James Lovell, number 4. John Glenn, number 5. Carl Sagan is 8. There's no other fictional. Elon Musk is 10. What the fuck is with this list?
Luke Skywalker's better than Elon Musk.
Oh, everyone's better than Elon Musk.
No Bruce Willis from Armageddon.
Hey, I'm gonna say right now, Picard's better than Kirk. So
Yeah. Picard's better than Kirk. Bruce Willis from Armageddon is certainly better than Elon Musk.
yeah, fucking
I'm so mad.
the president, any character from Independence Day, Goldblum, Smith, Pullman,
Quaid? I'll take Quaid.
the fucking xenomorph is better than Elon Musk.
He's really more
Much
of an
less
anti-hero, but
Yeah, much less Ripley, who deserves her spot.
Jason from Jason X.
Yeah.
Leprechaun from Leprechaun in
Leprechaun
Space.
went to space. Pinhead went to space.
Pizza the Hut.
Yeah.
I can remember any fucking characters from Spaceballs.
Whatever, whichever one of the Avengers went to space at the beginning of that last
Bunch of
movie.
them, fucking Captain Marvel.
They cut off Thanos' head. That's pretty good.
Zach, thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, whenever you're ready.
All right. Dude, first of all, like his life is so insane.
Yeah.
Like, all that stuff that Zach just said happened in such a short amount of time.
Mhm.
I don't even know how the fuck he got all done.
Yeah, he was born in 1934 and died in 1968. So he was about 34 years old.
Yeah.
Jesus. So I've got 2 years to get to space.
Yeah, 2 years to get to space and have a Nazi live in your house for 21 months.
Crazy. Yeah, when I decided to do the fake one, I was like, of course I'll do the fake one. And then I started reading his life, and I was like, his life is so fucking crazy. How can a fake one beat it?
Just turn it into like a normal like Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, totally. So, but here's what we got. Here's what we came up with. He was born in 1934 in a small town in Russia. His parents.
Can I just say, this guy, yeah, again, I mentioned this at the beginning, but I love that this guy's the level of famous that the town that he grew up in got renamed after him. Like, that's the power play where you just.
Yeah,
fucking,
that's the move. That's the dream.
That is the dream.
Well,
Okay,
kinda. I'm from Aurora, Colorado. I don't want Aurora named Tacoma, fucking Colorado.
No.
I mean, Zach and I both being from Littleton, I think we're in a similar boat.
Totally. Yes.
Or unincorporated Jefferson County in my case.
Yeah.
In my case too. Yeah, I'm in unincorporated. Yeah.
That'd work better. He's born in 1934 in a small town in Russia. His parents actually worked on airplanes, just like The Bachelor. So he's fucking hot. His parents. Yeah, it's a real thing. On the most recent Bachelor, we've had a lot of time on our hands.
Fair.
Yeah, his parents worked on airplanes. His dad was a pilot, and his mom was Amelia Earhart.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
So when you say worked on airplanes,
so when she, can I clarify, because even though this contrasts with our probably contrasts with the previous history, I don't care. We're going to ignore that. When Amelia Earhart disappeared, would you say that she went to her secret Russian family, or was that unrelated?
We'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
He was like you said, he was the third of four siblings, including one sister, who she would go on to start the band Pussy Riot. His sister would constantly torment him. She would always beat him up and like flick him in the dick, calling him the patriarchy over and over. Yuri was constantly picked on.
Child's idea of satire.
I mean, I guess it's never too early to start tearing down the patriarchy. My girlfriend Nanny's like a 4-year-old. I think it's good for her to start reinforcing that he's the patriarchy.
Okay.
Yeah, she just felt strongly about these issues from an early age. He was always picked on by his entire family for being small. His grandma actually called him the runt of the family, not because of his size, but because she said his penis looked like one of those little banana runts.
God damn it. I knew it was going to be a runts joke. Knew it. Yes.
And then in 1937, Yuri's mom, Amelia, she actually went out for a pack of cigarettes and went missing. And it drove Yuri nuts. It drove him to start drinking, at a very young age. Young considered by Americans, but to the Russians it was late, which was just another thing his family would ridicule him for.
So that would have been 1937. Did he have the same? Was he still born in 1934?
Yeah.
So he was 3 or 4 years old?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and that's how his dad would make fun of him. He would always be like, "It's kettle 1, not kettle 4."
Okay.
And Yuri, every night he would dream about flying away from his mean family and his big-clitted sister. In 1950, Yuri would pack up all of his Adidas tracksuits and run away to begin his journey becoming a pilot. He got
very Russian.
Yeah, he's so Russian. He got a job stripping at the Mule Knuckle 5 nights a week to pay for flight school. After a year of slinging his runt, he went to the local flying club and found out that all he had to do was volunteer.
I'm just going to go past. You tossed off that phrase so casually, despite it being one of the single most horrifying things I've heard.
Which one? Slinging his runt?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, dude.
I mean, obviously, yeah. What else could it be? It's not all he had to do was volunteer.
Oh, was it this one? As he cackles like an evil wizard.
I know. Well, I kind of am. Look at me. Yeah.
Although you did also say, I think, a big-clitted sister, so that was a contender.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was his words, not mine. He called his sister big-clitted. He was. Let's see, 4 years later, in 1955, he was accepted to pilot school. During his final test, he was too short to land the plane properly, like you said. So he gathered all of the empty Kettle One bottles, scratched CDs, and loose change that had accumulated on the cockpit floor, and he piled them on the seat and sat on those. And he was drunk as shit, but he passed his test.
Nice.
In 1959, after flying around, he was just flying around all the time, and he was just listening to James Rogan. It was Joe Rogan's dad. And he started smoking DMT. And when he woke back up one time, he expressed his interest in exploring space, both inner and outer.
So James Rogan, right? He was like, Trotsky should replace Stalin. But then when Trotsky left, he's like, well, I guess I'll just go with Stalin instead of anybody else. Is that right?
That's exactly what he said, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. Right in between DMT rants.
Mm-hmm.
So then he applied for the space program. He was accepted along with 30 other Russian dwarves, and they were put through rigorous testing and training to narrow it down to the 3 who would get on the Vostok 1. The testing included playing basketball on 10-foot hoops, getting Grandpa Joe and Charlie down safely from the fizzy lifting drink, and singing "We Represent the Lollipop Guild" from The Wizard of Oz. All 3 of which Yuri nailed and got on the Vostok 1. The flight was launched on April 12, 1961, entering Earth's orbit for 108 minutes, during which Yuri was noted for saying, "I can see my sister's clit from up here."
Oh my God. Double down on it. Okay.
Getting many laughs and making his co-pilot come. It was a success. Upon landing, Yuri was instantly a national hero, becoming more famous than everybody, including the ice skating polar bear that the country adored.
Yeah.
What was the polar bear's name? Can it be Babushkin?
Yeah, it could be Babushkin, dude. Yeah,
Lieutenant Colonel Babushkin was an ice skating polar bear? I like this.
Totally. The leader of the army, everything.
Yeah.
He also became internationally famous and traveled the world partying his tiny little ass off in more than 30 countries while drinking everyone under the table. After a while, the fame, booze, and DMT weren't enough, so he wanted to go back to space, but as the Russians pointed out, space was no place for a fat, drunk Oompa Loompa and grounded him from flying of any kind.
Grounded.
He was determined to fly again, though, and Yuri got rehired. So he went back and got rehired at the Moose Knuckle, dancing on Monday mornings. And enrolled
Monday mornings. That's
a
sure
bad
that's-
shift. You'd think for a national hero, they'd give him like the Saturday night slot, but nope.
He was just too fat and sloppy at this
You
point.
left, you got to start from the ground up.
And he did. And so he started dancing on Monday mornings and enrolled himself in flight school again, and he passed. And then on March 27th, 1968, just 5 weeks after graduating, Gagarin went on a routine flight with his instructor. During the flight, his instructor said that he thought Yuri's sister was hot. Yuri didn't take kindly to this and dove the plane directly into the ground, killing them both. When they found the wreckage, they found Yuri's hands still with their middle fingers up towards his instructor. And that was it. That was his tiny little made-up life.
Yeah, that's his autobiography, My Tiny Little Life. Matt,
Short
thank you.
duration and height.
Before we move on, listeners, hey, did you know that reviewing this podcast on iTunes or whatever podcast service you use is really helpful?
Yep.
Because it is. Didn't know if you knew that. Written reviews help us put more butts in the seats.
And it doesn't matter what you write. You can write anything you want. Just leave a 5-star review and just write slinging his runt. And that's the whole review.
Yes, you can write that. And yes, you're right. Doesn't matter. If I wake up to 20 slinging his runt 5-star reviews, though, I might just walk off a cliff.
So definitely get at least 20 tonight.
Oh, wow. Okay. Also, you can always reach us to ask us a question or leave us a comment at revisionistpodcast.com or on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Just search Revisionist Podcast. It's this one, not the Malcolm Gladwell one. That's our fucking slogan.
Yeah. Not the Malcolm Gladwell one. We also had that other slogan I mentioned earlier in the pod. Oh, yeah, big up Stalin. That's our other slogan.
Yeah.
We got to stop brainstorming slogans on the air.
You can also leave you can put that in the review too. You can write a review that says big up Stalin. That's fine.
Sure. At this point, why not?
I always tell people what to write in the reviews, and we never get any, but it would be fun. I wish we did, because sometimes I wish people would write what I tell them to write in the reviews, and I could look back years later and not know why
review we ever get is like honest praise and feedback, and not any of the crazy shit that comes out of our dumb mouths. Wouldn't it be fun
if every week when I told people what to write, at least one person wrote it in the review, and then we could look back over the years and see like fucking whatever crazy shit we talked about that we do not remember.
Good. Yeah, it's like a fucking time capsule.
Yeah.
Yes. We're just burying it in our ears. Anyway, Zach, Little Women modern audio drama is wrapping up.
So the final scripted episode of Little Women, a modern audio drama, which is written and produced and directed by former guest and my current girlfriend, Shannon Camp, and is available on iTunes. The last scripted episode just came out. I'm in that show. I play the Lori character. You can find it wherever podcasts are. There's a few more bonus episodes still coming out. A few more than she even intended, just because it's quarantine time. So she thought, well, might as well make a couple extras.
Nice.
So you can hear the whole thing as of now. The entire scripted section of the podcast is available. You can go through the whole thing. So
awesome.
Do so if you want.
Cool. As for Matt and myself, there's not a lot of comedy happening right now. You can always find me on social media, but also, hey, give blood if you can. And friend of the show, Megan DePonso and Jeremy Peischer, their restaurant Wide Right is collecting donations to send meal kits to people who need them right now. You can find more information on their Facebook. Just search Wide Right Denver about how you can give, or if you are listening to this and are in the area and are in need, how you can get a meal kit for yourself and your family.
It's a really serious, important thing. So we are suggesting, like, obviously, normally you'd give as much money as you could to our Patreon. Give us $5 less and send that $5 to get meal kits delivered. But still give us the money first. If you can't afford $5, then just give to us.
Yeah, it's like tithing.
Yeah. But if you have...
It's very Catholic, apparently.
Yeah, if you can afford to give us $10, we'll accept $5. And you can give the other $5 to a charity.
I don't think we even take $10 options on our Patreon. But judgment falls to me this episode, which... Yuri Gagarin's life was very exciting on its own. Matt, you alluded to this. I liked a lot of the details and a lot of the sort of punk rock fuck you energy he broke out in the alternate. However, along the way,
it's unfortunate that the story about him jumping off a balcony to escape being found cheating didn't make its way in there.
Yeah,
I guess that still happened.
Not chill.
Usually our policy is if you don't mention a part of the true history, we assume it still happened.
Yeah, that's generally our policy. Along the way, though, there were some of the most upsetting phrases I've ever heard. So, my single vote will go to the actual history. But listeners, the voting is now open on Patreon if you are a supporter. And check out our Instagram next Wednesday. That'll be Wednesday, April the
22nd? I want to say 22nd?
29th.
29th. Okay.
For the Instagram poll, which is something I should have looked up earlier. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us. That
Dude,
was
it's great. Thank you.
that was a lot of fun. Zach,
yeah.
thank you as always.
Yep, of course.
For everyone here at the Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
Have a good time.